in this moment, all glory is given to God. So first of all, I want to refer to the list that I made a couple of weeks ago. I don't have it out here today, but that's okay. I'll have it next Sunday, because there's a couple of words that I want to add to it and one that I want to change from where that was at above, and that word is consciousness. Because it struck me that consciousness, we need to look at our consciousness and change it in regards to every word that we have on the list. So that's probably part of what we're going to be talking about today. Referring to our consciousness, which leads us to God, Christ, Spirit, Source, I am love, all of the words that we have. And the theme or the title for today is called The Divine Feminine of Oneness. So we have current events happening all the time in our life. And if we want to look at negative or positive, however they happen in the world. And it's my job as a minister, when there are situations going on either within the congregation or out in the public that people may be concerned about, to talk about it from a more spiritual viewpoint. And there's two reasons why I'm talking about this today. That Spirit gave it to me, because the energy is up right now about getting connected to Divine Feminine. And I want to speak more about it from another teacher at the end of the talk. But it's very important right now, because I don't want to sweep under the rug things that are happening on a negative viewpoint regarding this topic in the world. And that is that we have a lot of energy going on in our world. And remember, what I've said before is that always the darkness has to come up because the light is coming up. So we could look at the darkness right now of all the sexual events that are going on by men in Hollywood and in the capital and politics. And what does that mean? That there's something that's got to change, and there's a divine feminine energy coming up a lot stronger. So to talk about that today, I want to go over the third one of three vows that I took as a minister of spiritual peacemaking 10 years ago, and then redid them again in October when I was in Oregon for the retreat. Actually, I want to share all three with you. The first one is to love all beings unconditionally. Now remember, these are vows that I took to be a minister, and that's important to me, because this is a summation of the teachings that Jesus gave to his disciples to demonstrate unconditional love, which was his mission. And now it was time to turn it over to the disciples and to say, I want you to do the same thing. This is a commandment. Love all beings unconditionally. So we could look at that as the two commandments. Love the Lord thy God with all thy heart, and thy mind and thy being, and love thy neighbor as thyself. Takes in everybody, doesn't it? And so we're there to love as much as we can. Number two, to feed the sheep of God. Well, this is an important role, because we're all here to be fed spiritually. Everybody wants to be fed spiritually. And as a minister, that's my job through the talks and through whatever else that goes on. And also recognizing that my own salvation as a spiritual being is intimately linked to each person that I serve. So I'm here to be of service to this congregation, to my clients, to however I have the opportunity to do that. And the one that I want to refer to today is number three, to hold the divine feminine in my heart until it is time to give it back to the world. Now, the role of the beloved community of the disciple, which is where this came from, or the community of the beloved disciple, where this originally came from, was to prepare the way for the release of the feminine Christ, or the feminine compassion of God. The masculine side started with Peter, when Jesus said, according to the Bible, upon you are my rock, and upon this rock the church shall be built. So this religion got started, and it was more the masculine side, started by Peter, who held the role of the first teacher, the first pope of the Catholic faith. But the feminine also started at the same time, when Jesus said to John, this is my mother Mary. Take her in with you and take care of her. And so John took Mother Mary, who is looked at as the feminine aspect of love and wisdom within us, and took care of her. And so the both of them together created the feminine aspect of the community of the beloved disciple, which has traditionally been kind of buried, even though it's come up in different organizations over time. But it's coming up even more now, which is why we have this vow, why it's important. Because Mary traditionally has held that role of the divine feminine. And we want to know that the feminine Christ, or God, or source, and the masculine part lives in all of us. Because God is both of those, but as one. And it's within us too. But since we're in this physical form, we tend to look at women being the feminine and men being the masculine energy. even though there's times that it's different. Women can step more into that masculine energy and men more into feminine. But what we want to look at is getting a balance of all of that. So what has happened over time since Peter took over the masculine side is that we have put males in charge of life. And this is a typical male, not necessarily the guys in here, but the typical male. While we look at it in the world, over time, men have been in charge of life. They're the ones that, and we've looked at women as the weaker sex, the lesser sex. So we've created an environment where men have mostly been the ones in power. Men ran the businesses, made the decisions, because the mind, which is the masculine side of logic and thinking, was looked at as the powerful organ, and the heart, or the seat of the feminine, has been looked at as kind of the weak part. We've grown up with statements that said, boys don't cry, be real men, women are weak, you don't understand them, they're too emotional. There's all sorts of cartoons and jokes we've heard about all of this, that it's time to let go of all that stuff. And it's time for change. It's time for this divine feminine to come forth. And the more that it's going to come forth in us, the more it's going to help bring up the divine masculine in men and women as well, since we have both of that within us. So because it's time for change, all the negative aspects of the human make and control is coming up to be healed. And that's very important. Women are finding a voice for themselves a lot more to say enough is enough. Men are needing to wake up to the fact that when a woman says no, that's what she means, no. And we need to address or acknowledge the power of women and that feminine energy. And how we can do that here is by all of us men who are more connected to that, helping the women become stronger within themselves, because that energy, the more that you women claim the divine feminine within yourself, is really going to help the divine masculine in you and in the men ourselves. And think about that for the whole world. If we could take the energy of what we're doing here as a group and connecting to that divine feminine and having to go out into the world and change the relationship, because we have to understand, beloveds, that all that's going on right now, all of these sexual issues that are happening, whether it's coming from somebody walking naked in front of women or rape or anything, is not about sex, it's about power. What power can I have over another human being? And women traditionally have allowed themselves to be the weaker sex because that's what they've said. And now, excuse me, they're claiming their voice and their power back. So the divine feminine is speaking up. It's waking up both of the sexes. And we at Fellowship have the power to help do that by supporting the women, stepping forth, claiming their power, for the men as well, claiming the masculine, divine masculine side. So it's time to relate to the soul, to raise our consciousness, not from the mental part, not from the human part, but from the soul. And the soul is one with God. Therefore, the soul is feeling the divine feminine and the divine masculine even stronger. And that's why it's time to come up. There was something I was going to share with you, and I forgot and left it at home. So maybe I'll have it next time. But if we look at the relationship from the soul to change our consciousness, then it's time to go back to the vow that I gave 10 years ago, which says, I've been holding the divine feminine, so have all those who got ordained, and now it's time to give her back to the world and to look at in this women, what does that mean to be connected to divine feminine, to the power of love and wisdom, not giving yourselves away, not having to fight anymore as what's happened over fighting for the right to vote and fighting for this and fighting for that. Not only the divine masculine feminine energy, but energy of love and compassion and oneness for all human beings, no matter their race, their creed, their color, whatever it is. That's the divine feminine of love. And the more that we open up to that, the more we're going to open up to our abundance as well, because God's love and abundance come together. So, interestingly enough, I opened up my computer this morning just to check it, and I get a message from one of my teachers about the Divine Feminine Emerging Summit. I was like, wow, how perfect is this? Spirit always gives me the right message at the right time. So, Outer world events indicate that the feminine polarity of God within each of us is surfacing in powerful and profound ways. This is at long last occurring through the mass consciousness of humanity. The divine intent of this summit is to share this truth through various voices and perspectives in order to help all of us grasp the magnitude of the opportunities at hand to balance the divine feminine within us. So there's going to be 5 days of this summit where there's going to be people there connecting to the divine feminine, and you will learn how to ignite the power of the divine feminine within and bring a new reality of divine grace, love, and joy and peace into your life. So even if you don't attend it, there's an energy going on, beloveds, for all this happening for us. And so the wait is over. It's time to cultivate the power, the love, and the wisdom of the emerging divine feminine. This summit is perfect for you. If you want to experience a deeper spiritual connection with the divine feminine, if you desire to gain powerful understanding of the larger picture of humanity's awakening, to get a clear picture of what I'm talking with you about today, if you want to remember that you can always choose joy and love no matter what's happening around you, how to learn how to live in the light more and be at peace with your everyday life, and if you feel the call of the divine feminine within you and are ready to change by shining the light of your divine feminine within. How's that sound? All of us to allow that. So this summit's going to happen December 3rd to the 9th. If you want any more information, let me know, and I'll talk to you about it. I may acknowledge it again next week. But this is very important right now. It does not need to be swept under the rug, which may happen in politics or in Hollywood. A lot of it comes up, and there's a lot of upset and so forth, but denial, no, that didn't happen, I didn't do that, and so forth. And with power, sometimes the negative part of it occurs, and it could get to the point where it's all kind of like, oh, well, that happened, but let's forget about it. No. It's up right now because it's time to get all of this healed, and we all need to wake up our consciousness to that as well and support the energy of the divine feminine that's coming inside in each of us. So, namaste.